The sun began to paint the sky. Soft colors like gentle watercolors spread above Ethelgard. The village was still quiet. A new day was dawning. Mist curled around the bases of the curved wooden houses. It whispered secrets to the sleeping flowers. The air was cool and fresh. It carried the scent of morning dew and waking earth. Peace rested here like a soft blanket. Everything felt calm, bathed in the early light. A gentle hum, barely heard, vibrated through the ground. A song of the village waking slowly, tenderly. The buildings were a wonder to behold. Old wood, dark and rich, twisted into beautiful shapes. These ancient forms held new life. Bright screens glowed softly on their walls. They showed patterns like flowing water, or perhaps the patterns of the wind. Smooth white pathways wound between the homes. They seemed to shine with their own inner light. No harsh lines, no cold metal. Technology lived with nature here. They were friends. They danced together in the morning light, a silent, graceful ballet of old and new, simple and complex. Trees stood tall and proud around the village. They were not ordinary trees. Their leaves shimmered with a soft inner light. Some glowed blue like captured sky, others shone gold like trapped sunlight. Further away, large crystals floated. They hung silent in the air. They turned slowly, catching the new sun. Rainbow colors flashed from their many faces. They looked like frozen stars, fallen gently to earth. These were the guardians of the valley, ancient and wise, watching over Ethelgard with patient glittering eyes. Above, the sky was a canvas of soft blues and pinks. Small birds, like swift brushstrokes, darted and sang. Their wings caught the light. They made tiny, bright flashes. Their songs were clear and sweet. They mixed with the rustling leaves. The light was special. It was cinematic, as if a story was about to unfold. It touched everything with a gentle magic. It made the ordinary seem extraordinary. The village waited. It breathed softly. It was a perfect, peaceful morning in Ethelgard. A young boy walked through the awakening village. His name was Kael. His hair was the color of moonlight on snow. White silver, it caught the gentle sun. It flowed around his shoulders like a soft stream. His eyes were remarkable. They held a light of their own, a mysterious glow like distant stars, or perhaps like the floating crystals. He moved with a quiet grace. He seemed part of the morning itself, part of its peace, part of its mystery. He was a familiar sight, yet always a little apart. Villagers began to stir from their homes. They smiled when they saw Kael. Their greetings were warm, like the sun's first rays.
Good morning, Kael.
An old woman called. Her voice was like rustling leaves. He nodded and smiled back. A baker, his hands dusted with flour, waved cheerfully. Children, still sleepy, peeked from doorways. They giggled softly as he passed. Kael felt their kindness. It wrapped around him like a warm cloak. He was loved in this village. He belonged here, beneath the glowing trees. The path led him towards the market square. Stalls were already bustling with quiet activity. These were not simple wooden tables, they were high-tech marvels. Glowing screens displayed fruits that shimmered with inner light. Woven baskets held bread that steamed invitingly. Strange, wonderful tools were laid out on soft cloths. They hummed with gentle energy. Merchants spoke in soft voices. They showed their wares with pride. The air smelled of fresh herbs and sweet berries. And something else, something like ozone and magic. The sun climbed higher. Its light became a soft golden glow. It filtered through the light leaves of the trees. It dappled the pathways and Kael's silver hair. The scene was framed perfectly, like a moment from a beautiful film, an anime cinematic full of feeling. Kael walked through this living painting. He felt the pulse of his village, the gentle rhythm of its life. He was a part of its beauty, its peace. For now, all was calm. All was right with his world. Suddenly the air changed. The gentle breeze, once a soft whisper, became a sigh. It carried a new feeling, a feeling of something different, something unseen. Kael stopped. He lifted his head. His glowing eyes narrowed slightly. The birdsong seemed to pause. The happy chatter of the market faded a little. A stillness fell over the square. It was not the stillness of peace. It was the stillness of anticipation. A breath held. The light seemed to flicker, just for a moment. Kael looked down at his feet. His shadow, cast by the morning sun, stretched. It grew long and thin, unnaturally so. It twisted on the glowing pathway. It looked like a dark serpent. It seemed to writhe with a life of its own. Kael watched it, his face calm, but his heart beat a little faster. He had seen shadows play tricks before, but this was different. This felt significant. The shadow pulsed, and for an instant it seemed deeper, darker than any shadow should be. Leaves from the glowing trees began to stir. They did not just rustle, they swirled. They danced around Kael's ankles, they rose into the air. They spun in tight circles, as if an invisible hand was playing with them. A wind, but not a normal wind, tugged at his clothes. It whispered strange things in his ears. Words he could not quite understand. A subtle aura began to shimmer around him, faint at first, like heat haze. Then, with a soft blue light, magic. It was undeniably magic. The light in the square shifted again. The soft golden glow became sharper. Shadows deepened. Colors grew more intense. The scene was no longer just peaceful, it was suspenseful, framed like an anime fantasy. Danger, or perhaps adventure, was near. Kael stood in the center of it all, the swirling leaves, the strange shadow, the glowing aura. He was no longer just a village boy, he was something more. Something was awakening, something powerful. The ordinary morning was over. Then the world dissolved. Kael was no longer in the village square, he was somewhere else. A place of swirling colors and endless space. A cosmic dream world. It was vast and terrifyingly beautiful. Stars blazed like angry eyes. Nebulae unfurled like giant painted silks. The air thrummed with immense power. It pressed against him, a silent, overwhelming force. He felt very small, very young, lost in this impossible place. This was not a dream of gentle things. This was a dream of titans. In the fiery, light-filled sky, gods fought, huge figures cloaked in starlight and shadow. Their forms shifted, sometimes beautiful, sometimes terrifying. They wielded weapons made of pure energy, swords of lightning, shields of condensed galaxies. Their battle cries were thunder. Their movements shook the fabric of this dream reality. Explosions of fire and light ripped through the void. Each blast was a dying star, each shout a world's end. The scale was beyond comprehension, a war of creation and destruction, and there in the midst of this cosmic chaos was Kael, or a younger version of him, small, innocent, yet strangely serene. He floated in a cocoon of divine energy. It was blue and silver like his own aura, but infinitely more powerful. It protected him, it nurtured him. He drifted through the battlefield of gods, unharmed, unafraid. His eyes were closed. He seemed to be listening, or perhaps remembering this ancient terrible war, this dance of cosmic forces. Planets shattered in the background, they cracked like fragile glass ornaments, their pieces scattered like dust in the solar wind. Moons crumbled, stars imploded. The destruction was immense, a high-drama, intense fantasy anime scene, yet the young Kael remained untouched. He was a point of stillness in a universe of turmoil, a seed of hope amidst despair, or perhaps a weapon being forged. The dream pulsed with raw, untamed power. It was a vision, a memory, a warning. Kael awoke with a gasp. His chest heaved. He was back in his own small room. The morning light, now stronger, streamed through his window, but the peace of the village felt far away. The cosmic dream still clung to him. Its echoes roared in his mind. Fire, light, shattering worlds. He sat up quickly. His heart pounded like a war drum. He was breathing heavily. Cold sweat slicked his forehead. The dream felt more real than reality itself. It was a terrifying, vivid memory. He looked at his hands. They were glowing. A soft, ethereal light pulsed from his palms. Ancient runes, symbols he had never seen before, shimmered on his skin. They were intricate and complex. They seemed to burn with a cool fire. They were marks of power, marks of destiny. He flexed his fingers. The light intensified. He felt a strange energy coursing through him. It was not frightening. It felt familiar, like a lost part of himself, now returned. The runes seemed to pulse with a life of their own. His gaze fell upon the floor around his bed. It was cracked, scorched. Dark lines radiated outwards like a spider web, as if a great energy had been unleashed here, as if he had exploded with power in his sleep. The wood was blackened in places. A faint smell of ozone hung in the air. The same smell from the market, but stronger now. He touched a crack with a glowing fingertip. It felt warm. He had done this. This power, this destructive force, had come from him. Then he noticed them. Dark shadows. They were retreating from him, slinking away into the corners of the room. They looked like frightened creatures. They recoiled from the light on his hands. They dissolved into the dimmer parts of his quiet room. It was an anime magic awakening moment. The power within him was real. It was strong, and it scared the darkness away. Kael stared at his glowing hands. He was no longer just Kael, the village boy. He was something else, something powerful, and perhaps something dangerous. Later the sun had set. Night had fallen over Ethelgard. In a quiet room, lit by a single flickering candle, two old villagers whispered. One was Kael's grandfather. His face was stern, lined with wisdom and worry. His eyes, though old, were sharp. He had seen many winters. The other was his grandmother. Her face was kind, etched with love and concern. Her hands, gnarled with age, were clasped tightly in her lap. They spoke in low tones. Their voices were like the rustling of dry leaves, full of secrets and heavy thoughts. The room was filled with shadows. They danced on the walls as the candle flame swayed. They stretched and shrank, like living things. They seemed to listen to the old couple's words. Behind them, shelves lined the walls. They were filled with books. Some looked ancient, bound in leather and metal. Others were sleek, futuristic scrolls that glowed faintly. Knowledge from ages past and ages yet to come. They held the history of their people. Perhaps they held answers, or perhaps more questions.
The time has come. We cannot protect him from it any longer.
He looked at his wife. Her eyes were filled with tears. She nodded slowly. Her heart ached for her grandson, for the innocence he was about to lose, for the burden he might have to carry.
He is so young, too young for such things.
But she knew. They both knew. Destiny did not care for age. Their whispers continued. They spoke of old prophecies, of forgotten histories, of a power that slumbered, a power that was now awakening. In Kael, their words painted pictures of danger, of great responsibility, of a path Kael did not choose but now must walk. The candle flickered, the shadows danced, the weight of their knowledge filled the small room. They were afraid, for Kael, for their village, for the future. The secret they had guarded for so long was about to be revealed. The grandfather sat across from Kael. The small table between them was old, its wood worn smooth by time. The candles still burned, casting long shadows. The air in the room was thick with unspoken words. Kael looked at his grandfather. He saw the worry in the old man's eyes. He saw the deep emotion. He knew this was serious. His own heart was still unsettled from the morning's events. The glowing runes on his hands had faded, but the memory of their power remained. He waited, his young face serious and attentive. The old man reached into his pocket. He pulled out a medallion. It was made of a strange dark metal. It glowed with a soft inner light, similar to Kael's own awakened aura. Runes like the ones on Kael's hands were carved into its surface. He placed the medallion on the table. It pulsed gently. It seemed to hum with ancient energy. The light from the medallion pushed back the shadows a little. It was beautiful, and it was powerful. Kael could feel its energy calling to something deep within him.
Your parents, they were part of something much larger. A great war long ago between light and shadow. A prophecy spoke of a child born with a special mark, a child destined to play a vital role.
His words were simple, but their meaning was immense. He spoke of sacrifice and of hope.
The dream you had, the fighting gods, the shattering planets, it was not just a dream.
Kael listened. His eyes, usually glowing softly, widened in shock. His breath caught in his throat. The world he knew was changing. It was expanding, becoming more dangerous, more wonderful, more terrifying. He was not just Kael. He was something more. Something connected to gods and ancient wars. The medallion on the table seemed to pulse brighter. It resonated with the truth of his grandfather's words. This was an emotional anime storytelling moment. A turning point. Kael's old life was ending. A new one was beginning. Night. Kael stood alone on a high cliff. The village of Ethelgard lay nestled in the valley below. Its lights twinkled like fallen stars. But Kael's gaze was fixed upwards. The sky was a vast, dark ocean. Stars glittered like countless diamonds scattered on black velvet. The air was cool and crisp. It carried the scent of pine trees and distant snow. He felt very small beneath the immensity of the cosmos. Yet he also felt a strange connection to it, as if he belonged there, among the stars. He looked up, truly looked, for the first time. He saw more than just points of light. He saw patterns. He saw shapes. The constellations. They were not random. He realized this now. They were deliberate. They were meaningful. As he watched, they seemed to shift, to rearrange themselves. Or perhaps his eyes were finally open to their true forms. They glowed with a new intensity. They seemed to pulse with a silent, ancient language, a language he was beginning to understand.
The constellations. They're forming symbols, divine symbols, the same runes that burned on my hands. the same runes that adorned the medallion.
They blazed across the night sky. They told a story of creation, of balance, of struggle, of prophecy. They spoke of his destiny, of the path that lay before him, a path of danger, yes, but also a path of courage, a path of hope. The stars themselves were confirming his grandfather's words. He was part of something ancient, something immense. A wind rose from the valley. It whipped his cloak around him. It tugged at his white-silver hair. He stood firm against it. He felt a sense of destiny settling upon him, heavy, yet somehow exhilarating. He was afraid, but he was also resolute. The awakening was complete. He was no longer just Kael of Aethelgard. He was Kael, marked by stars, touched by gods. This was a cinematic anime closing shot, a hero, silhouetted against the cosmos, ready to face whatever came next. His journey had truly begun. Kael stood on the cliff for a long time. The stars above seemed to watch him. They were ancient and knowing. He felt their silent gaze, the truth of his heritage, the weight of the medallion, the power in his hands. It was almost too much to bear, yet within him, a new strength flickered, like a tiny flame sheltered from the wind. It was the strength of acceptance, the strength of purpose. The vibrant, chaotic dream of gods at war no longer felt like just a nightmare. It felt like a memory, a call. Below, Aethelgard slept peacefully. Its glowing trees cast soft light. Its floating crystals shimmered faintly. The villagers dreamt their quiet dreams. They were unaware of the cosmic truths unveiled tonight, unaware of the destiny that now rested on young Kael's shoulders. He looked down at his home. A wave of love and protectiveness washed over him. This was what he would fight for. This peace, this beauty, this gentle way of life. The thought settled his racing heart. It gave him focus.
The future is a vast unknown ocean. Storms will surely come. Dangers lurk in the shadows beyond the peaceful valley. The path ahead, hinted at by the stars and the medallion, is not easy. It will demand courage I don't know I possess. It will ask for sacrifices I can't yet imagine, but the path is there. It is unveiled. I am not lost. I have a direction.
A purpose whispered by the cosmos itself. He was not alone. The legacy of his ancestors, the power within him, the guidance of the stars, they were with him. As the first hint of dawn touched the eastern sky, Kael turned from the stars. He looked towards the rising sun. A new day was coming, a new chapter was beginning. His childhood was over. A great adventure lay ahead. He took a deep breath. The night air was cold, but it filled him with resolve. He would walk this path. He would face his destiny. With the medallion safe, and the stars as his witness, Kael started his descent from the cliff. A sense of hope, fragile but real, bloomed in his heart. His journey was just beginning.